Good Tuesday afternoon. Tom Whalen sitting in for Aaron Rand this afternoon on Montreal Now. And there's a study, the results of which were published in La Presse today. And this really has caught my eye. It's a really interesting one. Researchers here in Montreal have done a study showing that particularly young boys benefit from participating in organized sports. And to talk to us about the study and about that phenomenon today is Dr. Linda Pagani. And Dr. Pagani is a clinical psychologist and professor of psychoeducation at the Université de Montréal. Dr. Pagani, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you this afternoon. Now, this to me sounds fascinating, quite frankly, that young boys in particular get a big boost from participating in organized sports. So this study, was it just mainly done on boys, or were there comparisons done between boys and girls in the study?
Well, in my lab, we treat boys and girls like apples and oranges. Apples have more in common with roses than they have in common with oranges. So what's really important is that we treat them like separate populations because of biology and also environmental influences. So we did conduct a study on both boys and girls by looking at the same topic in boys and comparing boys who are less oppositional or boys who experience sport with boys who participated less with sport. Similarly, we did the same thing with girls who experienced more sport or consistent participation in sport versus girls who didn't participate in sport that much.
So was there one big glaring difference?
Well, like I said, we don't compare boys with girls ever in my lab, but what we do is we found that boys really benefit from participating in consistent, organized, structured sport. In other words, not just going out and playing street hockey, but being in an organized context, especially today, and with all the screen time and all the helicopter and protective enabling parenting that we have in society.
And what did you see? What were some of the biggest benefits you saw?
Well, what this study in particular, which was a deal between ourselves and we have Laura Fusar-Poli and Luca Coriale on it from University of Pavia in Italy, because I have a double affiliation. What we noticed is that what we aimed to do was address oppositional and defiant behavior, and we wanted to see if participating in sport would reduce oppositional behavior, defiance in these boys, because boys are more likely, more apt, more at risk of having such behaviors compared with girls. Yes, there are girls who have oppositional behavior, but when you look at society in general, it seems as though boys are a little bit more at risk of that than girls. So what we did was we wanted to know whether sport would do anything, and it didn't do much for girls, probably because girls are a little bit quieter when it comes to visible oppositional behavior, but boys are much more overt with their oppositional behavior, and so the environment of having there are rules, there are people who are influential that are adults, and there are penalties, there's teamwork, all those things together have a more positive influence on youth as they grow, especially boys.
So having tangible consequences, in other words, when you're playing on a team, and
yes.
It makes a big difference, and you have a coach that you have to answer to and that sort of thing.
Especially in a world like today. We have our world is characterized by a very low birth rate since the 70s. It's gotten worse and worse, and as a result, our children are treated very much in small families. Lots and lots of focus on I don't want to be funny, but there's a lot more, protective, enabling parenting, and a lot less correction, let's say, in these families. That is because the kids are more on screens and they're experiencing corrections a lot less because there's only 24 hours in a day. So if your kid's on screens a lot, there are less conversations and less corrections going on. And also because in these families, in contemporary families, we have kids who are very much treated with both a voice and a vote in homes today. And this creates, the goal is to create leadership, but it backfires and it creates oppositional behavior.
Right. What age group were we looking at here in this study?
We're looking at 12-year-olds, and the kids, the design of the study, we're looking at a birth cohort of kids that are Generation Z. They were born between spring of 1997 and spring of 1998. And as a result, they are the last historical generation of birth cohorts that experienced, kind of a pure childhood without too much. Early childhood was pretty simple. We didn't have too much technoference like we have today. But what we do see is that today, we're seeing a mental health crisis in youth, and because of, and we have also a sedentary crisis. We have increasing rates of obesity. All this is related to more effortless lifestyle on screens.
Just before I let you go, just one other question. Of course, it's been all over the news. Are you seeing a difference in this study between sports? So in other words, is there one sport that seems to be more beneficial than the others? I'm thinking particularly of all the nonsense we've heard about hockey over the past little while, and very bad behavior there. Was there anything you noticed along those lines?
No, we didn't look at that, but I do have a comment on that. Okay. A lot of the, bad behavior, when you're talking about that, it has a lot to do with what I brought up earlier about, we were kind of functioning a lot better when we were having 5 or 6 kids. Mm-hmm. As a society, the mental health crisis didn't exist back then. Now we have an intolerance to effort. We have an intolerance to negative emotion. We have an intolerance to ambiguity we have to deal with in this population of young people, and that's because they're having less and less experiences that are, of effort, of dealing with negative emotion, of dealing with, of dealing with ambiguity and talking about it as they grow up, because like I said, they're on their screens a lot, and parents are also on their screens. It's very difficult to find somebody in society who's sober enough to say it. This is my role.
Right. Doctor, I feel like we've just scratched the tip of the iceberg here, and there's a lot more to talk about, but really thank you for shedding some light on this study. It really is quite fascinating, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, and congratulations on your 80th anniversary. You guys keep me company all day long in the lab. I drive around. You keep me company. You keep me in a good mood. And I just wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Linda Pagani from the Université de Montréal.
Pride is like love. You feel it in your heart. iHeartRadio, Canada's #1 streaming app for radio and podcasts, including iHeart Pride Canada, your favorite hits, and must-have party bangers, plus personalized and curated playlists like Back in the Day Pride.
Come together, celebrate love.
Take Pride with you, anytime, anywhere. Just ask your smart speaker to play iHeart Pride Canada. Stream us on your phone or listen now at iHeartRadio.ca.